Okay, so this is our first episode of It Had to Be Me. And before I introduce our guest, I just want to give everyone kind of an introduction of what this podcast is about. So, this theme, if you will, came to me prior to a TED talk that I had to do. It was like a mini TED talk, not a formal one, but I had nailed down like the points that I wanted to touch on, but I knew I needed to attach it to a theme. And I was just like laying in bed the night before, and it just hit me that it had to be me. And the thing I love about this theme is you can take it and apply it to so many different things. So for my audience, there's something for everybody. And really what it's about is people sharing these insane stories about pivotal moments in their life and how they turned pain into purpose, and really expanding on the decisive action that they had to take that ended up rendering life-altering outcomes. So this is just something that I've always been fascinated with, is hearing about people's life stories. And it's something that has really helped me to transcend some of my own trauma and own limiting beliefs, and hearing about just like these testimonies of extreme resilience, right? So before I introduce our guest, I just wanted to give you a teaser of how she came into my life. So we recently completed the Ben Newman Certified Coaching Program. And part of this process is really identifying your burn. And your burn is essentially what fuels your purpose and your why. And we'd had some breakouts, sidebar conversations, independent of our group. And in the process, I got to know Kristine a little bit better and hear a little bit more about her story, just like the 2-minute teaser of it. And I was like, I need to learn more. This is one of the most insane things I've ever heard. So without further ado, this is Kristine Flores. I'm going to let you take the floor, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
All right. Thank you for that intro. My name is Kristine Flores. I live in Kansas City, Missouri, the Missouri side, not Kansas City, Kansas, but Kansas City, Missouri. I am a mom of 6 kids. I've been with my husband for 18 years. We have done some just incredible things. My husband is an off-road race car driver. We've had championships. We've had many, many moves all across the country and just lived an incredible life. Like Allie said, I met her through Coach to Coaches, and she is just beyond impressive. Like, if you want to talk about go-getter, Allie is your girl. And I'm just so pleased to meet her because she just makes everybody feel so special.
Thank you. That's amazing. I love that. And remind me again, how many kids do you have?
I have 6.
You have
I have
6
one
kids.
girl, which is my oldest, and then I have 5 boys. So there is a lot of testosterone in this house all the time. It is a fight for the fittest here.
Yeah, and tell me a little bit more about what your when you've talked about how you've moved around a lot, and you guys are just this unit that kind of plants in a lot of places. And I understand you have a vlog, is that correct?
I did. We used to have a family vlog. It was the Tribe Flores, and it would just kind of talked about our adventures and what we did. I haven't really been keeping up with it. Last year, my Facebook account got hacked, so it was kind of like the downfall of that. And then I realized just how susceptible you are of your privacy being invaded, and just keeping the kids safe. So I don't post as much about them anymore.
Wow. I still think it's awesome that you managed to grow this massive community just by like sharing your family, right? Like,
Yeah.
in all your experiences, because it's crazy with 6 kids running around, mostly men, right? Or boys. Boys are going to become men. And so, like, I know for me, like consuming that, I'm just like fascinated by like, how do you do it all, right? So what
We
are you
don't
doing
even
right?
know. Like, the people who are doing it, we don't even know how we do it. We just do it.
Yeah, you just adapt. I love it. So, well, from the little bit that I know about you, you're like totally born to handle it. So I think that from here, this is a great segue into this event that I got a little teaser of not too long ago. And I'm actually excited because I really don't know much about it. But the little bit that I do know, I was like, wow, talk about a cliffhanger, right?
Yeah.
And just to give the audience like a mini teaser before you get into it, like I've always been fascinated with near-death experiences or people dying and coming back to life. I'm fascinated by just our consciousness and what happens after life. And something that's really helped me to get more comfortable with death is my personal belief that there's life beyond our physical life, if you will, right?
Yeah.
And so, and not everybody believes that, but regardless, whether it's our consciousness that's sort of trailing off as we die or whatever, like I think that there's a perspective that something like a near death experience or dying and coming back to life gives you that like nothing else can, and you only know what it's like if you've been through it. And so, really excited to hear your story today. So, what I'd like you to do is just kind of paint the picture of what your life looked like leading up to this event. Tell us where you were living, what you were doing, what your family was like, job you were working. Just lay it all out.
Okay, I think to paint the bigger picture is I may need to go back a couple years prior to that.
Sure.
I'm a former women's ministry leader.
Okay.
And I did that for several years. And our big thing is we would host monthly conferences, and they weren't just like regular conferences, they were prophetic conferences. So like we really leaned into the word of God and like what God was saying and hearing and knowing. And so we did that where we were hosting conferences every single month for several years. And so I really had the groundwork of deep faith. So I live by deep faith, not just a superficial faith, but like a deep of knowing the promises of God in your life and speaking those over it.
Mm-hmm.
So fast forward to a couple years from that, we had moved to Wichita from Las Vegas. Originally we're from Las Vegas, and then we moved to Wichita. We just felt God was saying like, hey, you need to leave Vegas. We had no idea where we were going. We just knew that we were moving. And of all the places, it just said the middle of the United States. Okay, cool. I don't know anybody there. Like we knew one person in Wichita, and we moved there and we moved businesses and just like completely uprooted our life. So I'm in Midwest America, like having nobody.
Yeah.
It was a couple days after Christmas. I was about 12 weeks pregnant at this time. I was dropping my husband off at the airport because he had to fly back to Utah to work because business was failing here. Nothing was going right. We just didn't have the income. So my husband, he had to go to another state to go make money for our family. So I dropped him off and I said, hey, honey, I know while you're gone, I'm going to have a miscarriage. Like I just knew it in my body. I knew it was going to happen. I was like, it's going to happen in the next couple days. And so he had to go. He couldn't stay. There was just no way. So that was the heavy thing for him to leave, and knowing I know I'm going to have a miscarriage. I already have 3 kids by this time. My youngest was 1 year old.
Mm-hmm.
And we had my mother-in-law living with us at the time. So I was like, everything's going to be okay. She'll be able to watch the kids while I go through this. This was my 3rd miscarriage by this time. So I already kind of knew the feelings. I already knew what to expect. Okay, it's just the thing I'm going to go through, and it's going to suck, but we're going to get through it, you know? So, a day or two goes by, and I was like, it's going to be close. Let me make a really big dinner. So I made spaghetti, just so that if it happened, we had food ready to go in the house for the kids, that it was super easy. Like I'm on mom mode. Like I'm already thinking of how I'm going to recover, how all these things. So I was ready. So I made spaghetti. I had just gotten the kids' plates ready, and I go to take one bite, and I guess, like, I don't know if anybody's ever gone through a miscarriage or anything, but essentially, I'm just going to be blunt. I'll go deep. I don't know. I don't know how much TMI is TMI, but essentially, like, the giant blood loss releases, and it looks like you're dying immediately. So I felt that give way, and like everything becomes drenched. So I was like, okay, kids, like I'm going to call grandma. here's dinner. I need to use the restroom. And like, I ran to the bathroom because I knew I was starting it. And so that was maybe 5 o'clock, and called her. She came home. She was able to deal with the kids so I could focus on me in the bathroom. It was me, myself, and I in this bathroom going through this thing alone. Hours and hours and hours later, and it was probably 11 o'clock, and I'd finally passed it, freaking out. There was a lot of blood loss in that time. It was super painful. It's not an enjoyable experience.
Right.
It's labor. And I passed it, and then I couldn't figure out why, like, the pain didn't stop. I wasn't getting better. And it was in that moment I realized, shit, I had twins. And I didn't know it yet, because I didn't go to the doctor yet. I was getting ready to go in the next couple weeks, and I realized that I'm miscarrying not one but two babies.
Holy cow.
So that was, again, for hours and hours, and I have already lost so much blood at this time. What ended up happening is I bled out and I died on my bathroom floor. My body just, it had enough. So I remember I fell off the toilet and I hit the ground. And from that, like, I just remember my spirit leaving my body from that moment. And I went up into the heavens, and I was like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And it was amazing to not feel any pain, to not feel any suffering, to not feel any of all of the feelings which I had been going through. Like, it was such a relief, until I realized, like, wait, this is weird. Like, something happened, and it took me a minute to try to figure out what happened, or where was I, or what was happening. And then it was like, wait. This isn't how it's supposed to be. This isn't the thing. And in that second, like, I remembered it all. I remembered my whole life. I remembered what I was going through. I remembered the pain that I was in. I remembered the suffering. I remembered the heartache. I remember all of the hard times. And I remembered, like, just everything. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm not done. My kids will not find me on this bathroom floor in this situation. Like, my kids are not going to find me this way. This is not how it's supposed to be. And because of my faith, I was able to call on, and I was like, God, you and I both know that you're not a liar. I did not fulfill all of the things that you had put on my heart to do, that you have given me dreams and visions of. I have been faithful. I have jumped when you said to jump. I have left everything behind when you said to do it. I had given everything when you said to give. I was faithful, and I knew it, and I could count on it. And because I could lean back on my actions and my past, and I was like, God, you and I both know that you're not a liar. My time is not done. I have work yet still to do. You will put me back in my body, and you will send your angels to administer to my body and heal me right now.
Whoa.
You will do it right now. And immediately I went back into my body, and I was laying on the floor, and I was like, oh my God, I feel like I was hit by a freaking train.
Whoa.
A train. And so I'm laying on that bathroom floor. I was like, God, you better send those angels to heal me now, because my body is not going to make it. You heal me now. Right now. Immediately, you felt presence in the room. And my body, like, the pain lessens, like, everything starts to get better. I pick myself up off the floor. I clean myself up. I clean up the floor. And I pass the next baby.
Oh my God. So you guys, okay, I have so many questions, but keep going. Whoa, holy crap. Okay, keep going.
So finally able to deliver the next baby. Freaked out. freaked out
Whoa.
because it was intact.
Oh my gosh.
At this point, like, my brain just cannot.
Right.
It just cannot handle. And I panicked. And I think back now, like, so this is probably one of my biggest regrets in my entire life is that, like, I freaked out. Like, I panicked so bad. And, like, I threw this baby down the toilet and I flushed the toilet instead of, like, I should have buried this baby. I should have done so many things. But at that point, like,
Right.
I just could not.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't even fathom what I'm seeing. I just checking out. And so clean myself up. I make it to my bed and my body is just shaking.
Oh, I
I'm
bet.
like, God, again, I'm not going to make it. I'm not done. And I'm just leaning on the big visions that he had given me on my heart. And I was like, this over here, you told me I would impact nations. I've yet done it. I have not done it. And I know it. I'm not at that precipice yet. We're not done. You heal my body now. You send those angels right back. We're not done. And so for days, that, like, I remember it was 2:14 in the morning when I made it to my bed.
Holy cow. So this is from 5 o'clock. So that's, you're going on like almost 10 hours.
Yeah. So I
Wow.
made it to my bed and I didn't sleep for like 3 days. Like, cause my body just could not relax. I was so stressed out. Like, I was living off adrenaline alone. The next week on Thursday. So I think I miscarried on Friday. The next week on a Thursday, I woke up and my whole body smelled like death. It was like when an animal dies out in the field and you smell it and you, like, that is what I woke up with. And I was like, oh my God, it's not over.
Wow.
So I had to call my sister from Oklahoma to come up and take me to the doctor. But from there, like, it was just a super, I was so pissed. I was so mad. I was so mad at God that it had to go that far.
Mm.
Like, months later, because I just couldn't, like, the recovery was super slow. I had lost a lot of blood. When I went to the doctor, the doctor was like, honestly, you shouldn't be alive right now. You don't even have enough blood in your body to be alive.
Whoa.
A week later.
So,
So
wow.
what's happening right now is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Just recovering from that was just a
So
whole nother.
let's go back a little bit. Okay.
Yeah.
So I remember in the beginning you said you knew you were going to have a miscarriage
Mm-hmm.
and you had 3. Why do you think you knew for sure that you were going to have a miscarriage? Was there a warning sign? I don't know anything about miscarriages because I've never had one, but how did you know?
So when you're pregnant, you just feel different. Like, you feel like you're carrying something before you even know it. And so you also have other signs and symptoms of pregnancy. And so I knew that I was going to miscarry. One, I started having some spotting, but 2, it was just, I felt like a loss of being pregnant. Like, in my spirit, I just felt a loss. I felt grief. I felt like any pregnancy things that I had were no longer, like, my breasts were no longer tender. The life inside my belly, it was nothing. It was like turning off the lights.
Wow. Wow. Okay, now let's go to this event. Like you're in the bathroom and you die, and it's crazy because at that point you'd only passed one child,
Yeah.
right? Do you know how long you were out for when you no. Holy cow. Okay, now let's go into like your experience, because I feel like I've heard stories just on TV shows and online about, the recall, the rapid like recall of your life, and the out of body experience that you have, where like I've heard of people literally seeing themselves, like they're over the top of the whole scene and they can see what's happening, at the ground level, or maybe they encounter like loved ones or ancestors that have passed and they sort of meet them. Did you have anything like that happened?
No, I didn't. I just remember being up in the heavens and just feeling so much relief and joy and just elation in in everything in my body. And then trying to recall what just happened and trying to figure out where you are, or like have any kind of notion of, just like, I didn't see myself laying on the floor. I didn't meet anybody. It was just me trying to recall what just happened. It seems funny. This is great, but how did I get here? And then from that, it was like a stream of downloads that kind of hits you all at once, and you're like, oh my God.
Wow.
That was my experience. So it was like a major download of everything all at once, and you're like, wait, how did I get here?
What amazes me is that you literally got up off the floor and cleaned up and then went to
Yeah.
your.
So like there was no trace of nothing. I was like, my kids are not going to come in and see this. They're not going to be scarred for life. Like this is not the legacy I'm leaving them, is this trauma. Like it's not happening.
So, okay, you said your husband was out of town. You had to call was it your sister or sister-in-law to come take you to the hospital a few days later?
Yeah. My sister, who lives in Oklahoma, I was living in Wichita. So it's like a 3-hour drive.
Right. So, at what point did you notify your husband of what happened?
Um, right as right as I started miscarrying, I was like, hey, it's happening.
Holy cow.
And I also took a picture of myself in the middle of it. Like I have it somewhere in the downloads, and it was just like it was gray.
Whoa.
So I was
So,
like, you know what? Like as bad as this memory is, like I know I need to remember it.
wow. And you
Did
didn't
I know what
realize
for?
that you were
No,
pregnant.
but
Yeah, you didn't realize you were pregnant with twins
no, I just thought it
until.
was going to be one.
Right. And then the pain didn't stop because you knew what this experience was like. You've been through it 3 times. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that was my third miscarriage. The first time I had miscarried, I was a women's ministry leader, and we went to the day before we were going to a conference, of my friend's conferences. I went to the doctor's office. They did the ultrasound. They're like, "Oh, there's no heartbeat." Um, but I was driving the women to this conference, and I was actually going to be on stage at this conference. I had every reason not to go, but instead I still went because the doctor said, it could happen at any time. Like we know that the baby is no longer here. Like it's not viable. Um, you can go at any time, but it's probably not going to happen till next week. So I went to that conference, and with that, I was able to share with all of the women there, and they were actually able to tell me their stories of when they've miscarried, which they've never told anybody in their life because there was never space available to talk about it. Like it's always been such a hush hush, just a women only thing. But I realized in that moment that there's so much trauma related in it, and everybody telling them to hush, that like we're not healing from it.
Yep.
So
Okay.
with that, I was able to learn from a lot of women, like what happened. So I was like, what's going to happen? I need to know what to expect so I don't freak out or anything. So from that first time, it was it was so beautiful in a sense, because it brought us all together.
Wow. So let me ask you this next question. The 3 other times you'd miscarried, did you miscarry in the same form, like fashion, where you were at home alone, or did you see the signs and go see a doctor? Like, how did those go? How did those experiences go?
Um, the first time I was walking across the street to my kid's school, and it's like the dam breaking and all the blood coming out. And I was walking across the street after getting my kid, picking him up from school and getting in the car, and it all breaks. So I'm like, hustle. I'm like, it's time, picking him up, run.
Wow.
And fortunately, I lived like right down the street, and I was kind of ready for it just based off of talking to the women. The second time, again, like it's just kind of always been at home. They're like, if you could do it, like do it at home. But if things aren't passing, then you go in and then they'll help it along. The other way, it's another form of labor. Like you've already had the 3 kids. It's already something that your body will instinctually do.
Okay, next question. So let's just say you assumed you were this last one, you assumed that you were just going to be miscarrying one child, right?
Yeah.
Was there something different about this one in terms of the pain level or the blood loss where you were like, oh man, this one's different? Or did it kind of unfold in the same way?
At first, it unfolded in the same way, but it felt like it took way longer. Yeah, I just felt like it took so much longer than it should have. Like I'm doing all of the things, I'm waiting, like it's not an ideal situation. And then just the time length of it, and the amount of blood was astronomical. I'm like, it's just not stopping.
Whoa. Okay. So you have this experience and you walk me through the next 3 days. Cause I know you said you woke up and you literally smelt like death, but were you still going about your day, taking care of your family for the next 3 days? Like what did the next 3 days look like from just your activity level?
My activity level was mom was in bed. Mom was in bed. So I had like a day in bed where my mother-in-law was there. And then the following day was New Year's Eve, and she wanted to go out. So she left me. She left me so she could go
like,
party.
Hey, it's New Year's Eve. Yeah,
yeah, good luck. And I'm like, well, shit, okay. And then she just didn't come home.
Wow.
For days. So it was the mom show, like you still gotta get food for everybody. You still gotta change diapers. You still gotta do all of the things. So it was mom show.
Wow. Okay. So you get to the doctor, and what happens after that? I mean, he's saying it's a miracle you shouldn't be alive. Do you have to stay?
Miracle, they were gonna go in and do a DNC, and then like I guess I just didn't go to the right hospital because I was new to the area. And so I guess they didn't even have a labor and delivery department there. Because that's what he's saying at first, like, oh, you need to go up there. Maybe they'll do a DNC. Maybe you still have tissue, whatever that's doing the thing. So I was like, okay, whatever I need to do is what I need to do. And then he was like, well, I'm just going to give you this medicine and then send you on your way. I was like, wait. You just said all of these things. And all at the same time, it was in the evening, and like fights are breaking out in the middle of the ER. And so like his attention is diverted elsewhere. And I'm like, they're trying to discharge me at the same time. I was like, but you just said this. Would this not be malpractice?
Yeah.
For you not doing, like taking care of me. So if I go home and die, it should be on you and your practice.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was pissed, and I told him off. But again, like they're not going to do anything.
Yeah. So okay, from there, you're pissed. You're like you're not feeling seen and heard. You know that like there's something going on because like clearly something is like dying inside of you or something. So what do you do from there? Do you go to another provider? Do you go to another hospital?
So he was like, I was worried it was sepsis.
Okay.
So essentially that's the medicine that they gave me. Either you're going to live or you're going to die. There's not much else that you're going to do from sepsis. Plain and simple.
Yeah. That's
so
serious.
he gives me the strongest form of whatever the medication is for that. And he's like, go home, take this. The rest should pass, all the things. And I was like, well, okay. And and we're at a place like I'm so freaking poor. Like I don't know how I'm going to pay for doctor's bills. I don't know anything. Come the first of the month, the first of the year, we have an eviction sign up on our house. Um, so like this was the bottom of the barrel. This was my lowest of lows. Like everything in life was coming against me before, the day before that my sister came, I had the repo man knocking on my door in the middle of the night. And you're just like, what can I do? Like, God, this is not what you said that it was going to be,
Wow.
and it felt like the world was against me. It felt like, why should I keep living? But I chose to.
Right.
Like, why did I sign up for this? This sucks. Like nothing's working out for me.
So you get this medicine, you go back home. Does it take care of the problem or does
It
it
did.
work?
And so like
Okay.
within a day,
Okay.
like the next day, I no longer smell like death. I feel a little bit better. The day after that, like I start improving from there. Granted, like I'm not like lifting weights or anything else. I'm not doing anything super strenuous. I just don't have the wherewithal to do it. But each day from that moment, I got better and better and better.
So this is crazy because I had no idea that at the same time you're struggling financially and like literally your whole world is falling apart. And I remember you saying to me, like, when you got to heaven, it was so beautiful that, but you're like, send me back. It was almost like you knew how it was going to end. So you could almost like handle the struggle that is life, right?
Yeah.
So you're going through all this stuff. You died. Does it change? Like, what changes? Because it seems like when it rains, it pours, right? Like, you got the eviction notice, you got the repo man. Like, your mom is going out for New Year, mother-in-law or whatever is going out for New Year's, not coming back. Like, after having had that experience that you had, how did that help you kind of power through those moments when like everything was just kind of coming down on you at once?
So in that, like I'd cried a lot. I was praying a lot, like super leaning in. Like all I have at this point is faith.
Yeah.
I have nothing else. I have no worldly anything that's going to help me in anything. Like I don't have money. My car is going to be gone. Like the house, like whatever. We don't have a plan B. There's nothing. All I have left is my faith. So I was praying one night and it was, just why did I have to go through this? Why is this happening? Why is blah, 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 blah. And I just have this word in my spirit and it just said, it's not about you.
Whoa.
And so it really like makes you suck it up. Like, I know that my story isn't even about me. It's not for me. It's not about me. That my story is going to be it's going to be what somebody else can cling on to and know that there's another side.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That is super powerful. Like if you talk about like it had to be me moment, like that's it, you know? And so holy crap, I have like literal chills
I do too.
from hearing that. There's so many things that I had no clue about. Like I heard the teaser of how I was kind of joking. I'm like, so you just fall to the ground, go to heaven, come back, clean it up, and like go about your day. But like you actually like just got right back up and kept going. And obviously you were in bed for a few days, but like this is really heavy stuff. So, I know that your physical body improved, but how long did it take for your mental state to improve from there?
I was in a really deep, dark pit for a long time.
Yeah.
Um, my anxiety was so bad for over a year.
Yeah.
And what got me out of like such a depressive state is, because my body, I physically couldn't go work out. I couldn't go run. I couldn't go do those things that I would normally turn to. So I sat down and I taught myself to crochet.
Okay.
I was able just to get out of my head and just take it a stitch at a time.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
it's like a form
something
of
about
meditation.
not thinking about all your problems, of just focusing on the one next thing, the one next thing, the one next thing.
I love that because think about it. If you're crocheting, like you need both your hands, you can't be on your phone. I mean, you can have something playing in the background, but yeah, it's like the perfect metaphor, right? And so, okay, let's get into like the reflection piece because I'm just fascinated by all this. This is like a life altering moment. And like I read a book called, I think it was called 90 Minutes in Heaven, and it was a guy that died for 90 minutes and then he came back and he had like broken every bone in his body and he's like it took him years to recover like physically, right? And
Yeah.
he had a lot of moments where he's like, God, why did you bring me back? Why didn't you just take me, right? But I think the cool thing is that you knew you still had work to do. And so yeah, this is just so impressive because even in your lowest moments, I would imagine like you had so many reasons to be bitter. Like, you went through that only to experience all this suffering. And I can imagine many people would be like, I just want to go back to heaven. Like, I just want to get out of here. Right. So I just really admire you for your strength there. And I wanted to ask you, like, it sounds like you have this like inner knowing. And I think one thing that I could ponder all day is like, are we born with it, or is it something that we develop, just that inner knowing that we're meant for more? Like, what do you think it is? And what experience in your life do you think kind of revealed to you that you were meant for more earlier in your life?
So for me, I've always known. I've always known. I was a little white girl on the Indian reservation that did not fit in.
Mm,
I was, my skin was lighter, so I was not accepted, even though I'm the same blood quantum than my cousins. So I grew up in a place where I was never going to fit in. No matter what I did, the color of my skin was always an immediate out.
yeah.
So from being born and raised on the Indian reservation, I just knew that I had more to give. I had more to do. There was the world to see. There was other things in my life that I knew that was going to impact. So I had grown up in the church, going to church camp and all these things. And so I've always had like a knowing in my gut. I would say, some people call it instinct, some people call it God, some people put it, or the still small voice. Like, it's always been very, very present in my life. Every major move that we have had, like, it's come from that place of knowing, that deep well of information. So it just comes up, and it's not like a head thing, because half the time it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, when I think back to childhood and how innocent we were, like, and the things that you gravitated towards or the things you wanted to really be good at, like, no one, like, I feel like for me, I had already started to express that like inner knowing before I had anything projected onto me, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how it's just you can't even really describe it. It's just something that and
Yeah.
it's like
It's
a
just this.
subconscious thing. I mean, it's hard to explain.
Absolutely. And then when I was a women's ministry leader, like, I really cultivated that. I
Yeah,
really let that voice be known in my life, where I think a lot of times through life you shut it down or you push it down because the world around you is telling you something different, but then this voice is telling you to do. And so I really, for me, that was my saving grace. I know it, or else my kids would not have a mom. If I
mhm.
did not know all of the promises that God had given me and had shown me, and like, I would not be here today. I would have no reason to keep going. I would have no reason to have suffering. I would have no reason to have all of these other experiences in my life, other than knowing that by the grace of God I'm here, and it's for other people, because I know that I'm going to make it through. I know where I'm going. I know the path for me.
Yeah. So, okay, the cool thing about this story is I know you now, and you're a newly certified Ben Newman certified coach.
Mhm.
And like this is incredible just to see how far you've come. So how long ago was that miscarriage?
The miscarriage was the end of 2018.
Oh, wow. Okay. So the end of 2018, you had a year where you were like coming out of it sort of mentally and physically, right? When
Yeah.
did things really start to turn around for you, and kind of what unfolded in the years leading up to today?
So September of 2019, we decided like business in Wichita was absolutely failing. So we needed a fresh start, but we just felt like let's sell everything that we have and let's move to Florida. So we had a 2,600 square foot house that was filled. It was beautiful. It was my favorite couches in there. But we sold everything that we basically owned, and whatever that we could pack on top of the Suburban or in it is what moved. And we moved with our 3 kids. Um, and we didn't even have like a house set up to live in when we got there. All the voice kept telling us was like, just get there, just get there, just get there. So my husband, he got a job in working at like producing gates and stuff. And so we did that, and then we were there for about 9 months. Then the voice came again and was like, move back out west. Okay, so we went back to Arizona for about a year and a half, just so that we could be around family. It was in the height of COVID. I had a baby in Florida right before we moved back. So he was my pandemic baby. I was scared shitless the entire time I was pregnant.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine.
I was convinced that when I went to deliver him, I was going to die.
Whoa.
So the trauma of that was there. Like I was so freaking scared. Had him. I had to deliver him alone. My husband couldn't be there. He was a 10-pound baby.
Oh, so the pain level is like excruciating, like beyond it already being excruciating. It's like extra excruciating.
Yeah, he got stuck. We had to like help pull him out because he's so big.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
but he was like the chillest baby ever. And then we moved back home or back to Arizona, had another baby. Except for after I delivered him, I started hemorrhaging.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so like they're working on you, and so they're like pushing on you, and it's excruciating. So they were working on me for an hour and a half. They're giving me all of the drugs because I'm bleeding out right then and there. I'm clotting, all of the things. And I'm just like, again, this isn't it. There's still more again. And they're apologizing to me. They're like, I'm so sorry. And this, and that. I'm like, listen, you do what you got to do because you're going to keep me alive. Like I'm coaching them as they're hurting me on the table. I'm like, keep going. Let's do, and so my husband's on the side over here, he's holding the baby, praying over the whole situation. I was like, not today. Like death can't have me. I'm not done.
Whoa. Like this is giving me chills just because it's like you had that experience and the fact that you're like, no, I still need to bring more life into this world. And it's not getting any easier. Like there's something with every child that makes this event or that sort of takes you back to that traumatic moment, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so it's like you're having to relive that trauma and revisit it multiple times thereafter. And this is with like this is with a human life, right? So it amazes me that you had the courage to like still keep going, knowing like, no, I'm meant to be a mom. I'm meant to bring more life into this world. What was the third one like? Because you, at that point, you had 5 kids and then you had one more. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Cody, I guess anytime that you're pregnant after that, like you're always looking for signs that it's going to go wrong. to like soften the blow if it does. So like anything, like if you have any spotting, if you don't feel a baby moving for a day, if anything, like you're looking for shit to go wrong because you're worried that it's going to go wrong. Um, Nothing wrong. He was great. He was healthy. I didn't hemorrhage. It was a pretty quick recovery. This kid is still breastfeeding and it's draining my life from me. And we're like a year and a half later. But really, like, why I signed up for this coaching program, the one that we did, was because I knew that it was time.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas before, it just felt like it's not your time yet. Like, you have time to be a mom and to be present and to be there and not worry about this other part. You're going to get there. You're going to have that time. Like, this is special for you now. Like, be where you're at. There's going to come a time where, like, you are fulfilling all of those things that God had called you to. It's just not yet. Can you be faithful in the not yet? And
Wow.
so I joined the coaching program. I just felt it in my spirit, like, okay, it's time. In order for me to go do the things that are on my heart, I know that I need a coach and I know that I need a community. Without those two things, like, those were the best times in my life where I was able to go and be successful at things. Like, I had a coach when I won Miss Route 66. I had a coach when I did a triathlon. I had a coach, like, I just knew that this is the things that I needed in order to get to where I'm going. And I just felt like the time was now. Like, it's ready. I'm not super traumatized by my story anymore, that I'm finally able to own it and to share it without feeling like I'm dying.
Whoa. Yeah, and that's a freaking story. Like, you know that you have a really big purpose in this world because of what you've been through. And one of my coaches always says, like, you can only go as high as you've been low. And I believe that, like, we're best meant to serve the prior versions of ourselves.
Yeah.
And you just know when you're there, when you're like when you're actually ready to serve. Like, it's a difference between knowing that you're meant to serve others and meant to serve a higher purpose versus being actually ready to play ball, right?
It really is. It's a thing of, like, sitting on the sidelines to getting in the game. It's absolutely different. And
Mm-hmm.
so I really do feel like the time is now to share my story and just to help people in their walk and their transformation, and just knowing that they can do it. And especially, like, being the example of going first.
Yeah.
Being the example for my kids that, like, just because you're a mom, just because you're a parent and you have life, like, you can't still live out your dreams. That,
I
like,
love
you
that.
can't live out your calling. Like, you still can. Like, let me go first. Let me show them what it looks like.
You've got so many, like, layers of inspiration to draw from, because I think a lot of people, especially in our age range, whether you have kids or not, they're like, oh, miss my opportunity, right?
Yeah,
Your story is just like the greatest testament to that. It's never too late and you can always figure it out. Like, most of the barriers we create in our head are actually just excuses, right?
absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like I was, for a couple years now, I feel like I was trying to step up to the plate, but the word try, like, I'm absolutely against the word try. I think when you use the word try, you come from a place of lack, and that you have excuses, all the reasons why you didn't do what you wanted to do. So, like, the trying is out the window right now, and it's just this attack of doing.
Yeah, it's like you find yourself in this, like, flow state where it doesn't feel like work, I think
No.
that's the difference, is like, that's kind of the space I'm coming into. And again, it's not something that you can put a tangible value on. It's just a feeling that you have, that okay, now it all makes sense why I had to go through all these things, right?
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of life, is when you can, like, start to appreciate the duality and know that it's just like a rite of passage in order for you to level up and serve others in a greater way. Like, that's when life gets really freaking fun, right?
Yeah,
So
well, because you're able to turn beauty from all of the ashes that you've gone through, like all of the shit that burned down, like you're able to use it to create new things.
Yeah. Well, you are freaking superwoman, girl. Like, I am so impressed. This is exactly why I started this podcast, because I think that a lot of times with social media, everybody's posting the highlights, and between that and all the negative information, like, we are net negative in what we consume. And I
Yeah.
want to be a light, like, and I want people to lean into their scar tissue and use it to their advantage, because you have such a competitive advantage if you have a burn like yours and mine to tap into. And through the process of the Ben Newman coaching, that was one of the hardest things for people to drill down, was their burn. And
It was so hard.
so it's funny, because I realized, like, that was the easiest part for me. I've got tons of scar tissue. But that is what ignites the why and the purpose. And I almost look at it as like a gift, the pain that I've had to suffer. I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. And I know you can say the same. And you're just, the fact that you are so kind and sweet, and like, you've got all these kids running around. Like this morning, I'm like, yeah, my dogs won't stop wrestling. You're like, I got 6 kids running around. I'm like, okay. So it's
And
so
I really
amazing.
think like that's part of why I know like it's going to move the needle for other people. Cause I've had, when we were traveling and vlogging, they're like, if you could do it with that many kids, like I can get out of my house and I could go do this with my kid. Like if you're doing it, like I can do it too.
Yep. Well, that was a beautiful story. I appreciate you sharing everything and bearing it all. I think that's what people want to hear about. And not enough people get that vulnerable. And this was exceptionally vulnerable, just even from the medical aspect of, describing things in detail, like the bleeding out and stuff. But I just really appreciate you for agreeing to do this. And I hope it helps you.
It really did. Like I'm super grateful that that you're giving people a space to be vulnerable, that you're holding space, that whatever that you say, it's okay. Like this is safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm super grateful for having me on here and sharing my story. And I'm just I'm excited to see all of the big things that you're doing.
Right back at you, girl. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And stay tuned for the next episode.